Welcome to The Village Lantern, a podcast for families living with hidden challenges such as autism and other neurodiverse conditions, and for anyone else wanting to understand, love and support. Our mission is to build understanding, empathy and love for families living with one or more children who have hidden conditions that make life harder in one way or another. We call this Extra Zing.
Football clubs always get told, just stick to football. But I think AFL clubs have such a big reach, very strong brand. If you can help people and educate, get awareness out there and help, like I said, it'd be silly not to. The biggest benefit we've found is the interaction and the confidence. Got kids who've come in really nervous and shy at the start, and then being able to, confidently run around and talk, and it's pretty big. Yeah, that's why we do what we do, I guess. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, Village listeners. I hope you're all as well as can be. I'm here again without my sidekick, Jordan. As you may know, Jordan's been really busy with his impossibly hectic and full schedule. I've been living the same old busy, chaotic life, dragging myself through every day and doing my best. But this has meant it's been really hard for us to find time that suits us to both get together. Jordan was actually unable to join me for this interview, which I know hurts really bad for him. Because in this interview, we talked to another amazing AFL club doing incredible things to support the kids and families like ours. I'm sorry, Jordan, I really am. I know you would have had lots of interesting questions and observations for this one. In this episode, I talked to Kate Shierlaw from the St Kilda Football Club. I met Kate when Millie's physio, Zoe, suggested we find some sports programs to add to her therapies. Zoe shared a website called Access for All Abilities Play, which you can find at aaaplay.org.au. I was so thrilled to find a whole lot of different offerings that appealed to Millie, but the SaintsPlay program run by the St Kilda football team and led by Kate was the first on our list. Long-time listeners will know that Millie is obsessed with AFL, but before now it was only as a passionate fan. So when we found this, we signed up straight away. Kate is an impressive human on many levels. She recently started as a program coordinator for SaintsPlay, but she's also a seasoned professional athlete and plays for the AFLW Saints team. In this interview, we talk about the program, the Saints Footy Club, AFLW, and the Saints' heartwarming story of culture and inclusion, and also about how much a program like this means to Millie and to our family. I must admit, I did feel pretty frustrated about how long it took me to find out about these programs, but I'm really pleased I can share it with you now. Both the SaintsPlay program as well as all the other offerings on the Access for All Abilities Play website. I hope you love it, guys. Bye. I'm very pleased today to welcome Kate Shierlaw from the Saints Football Club. Thanks, Kate, for coming. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Kate is the Community Engagement Support Officer for the Saints Football Club, and you were just telling me before that you're only 3 months into the role, so it'll be interesting to hear what those first 3 months have been like. But Kate, you run a program at the Saints called Play Saints.
SaintsPlay, All Abilities, yeah.
SaintsPlay, All Abilities. And I met you when I brought my daughter to the footy program, and I was thrilled to find a program that's designed for kids who are either on the spectrum or ADHD or have, I think you said, intellectual or developmental delay or disorder.
Yep.
Can you tell us a bit about the program? And I imagine it existed before you came, is that right?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I'm only 3 months into my tenure, I guess. But there was a lady at the Saints called Lisa Lang who had a big passion for in the community space and creating as many opportunities for children to play football or be involved in football as possible. So she had a dream to allow everyone who had intellectual disabilities and developmental challenges to be able to play football. So she sort of pioneered a program along with studies through Deakin University. So the Saints and the Deakin University had a partnership.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What was Deakin contributing?
So they mainly were in the research space. So, the Saints had the idea around what the program could look like, and Deacon sort of pioneered the research behind that.
And what did that, was that, which department was that, do you know?
I'm not sure. No.
But so research around how to make adjustments for this audience, is that what that was?
Yeah, and also the need for the program in that area.
Yes.
So the Bayside region's very big, very dense, and the studies show 1 in 5 children have intellectual disabilities or developmental challenges. So there's a need for the program, and there's not many programs out there for this sort of thing. So they did a lot of research and
amazing.
That sort of stuff to find out that we can run the program and it will be successful.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'd love to know more about that. It's so nice, encouraging, encouraging to know that such work is being done out there and recognising the need, because it's absolutely, I mean, one of the things I find so hard is to find the programs, but then I feel really annoyed that they have been in existence for like years and I didn't know about them.
Yep.
And so I also feel like it's so important to try and find different ways to get the word out. So
and I know Auskick is like a numbers-based thing, across Australia. So many participants play Auskick. There's a number of clubs, like you're all measured on how many clubs you have, how many participants you have, that sort of thing. But I think SaintsPlay is a lot more about like making a significant difference to each person. So it's not so much like a dense numbers-based sort of thing. It's more making a difference to a child's life. So it's a lot less, numbers-based and more what difference can we make.
Yeah, so good. It's so good. I mean, my daughter, Millie, loves footy, always has, and we talk quite a lot about, when she was younger, it was one of her special interests. I think it died off a little bit during COVID because was sort of harder to get involved, but she's been obsessed with it for ages, and more in watching the game, but I think in time she's been watching her brothers go off and do, team sports, and I think she's starting to feel like she wants to do that too.
I know the Auskick, the study showed there was, I think, 53 Auskick programs in the Bayside region, and only 3 were catered towards these sort of children. So there definitely, the studies showed that there is a need and not enough out there.
I mean, across all the types of extracurricular things that kids might want to do, and it's taken me a while to work out what Millie's needs are in terms of participating in programs. And for the first few years that she was joining programs, she was just going along with her brothers in mainstream. But each year that's gone by and she's struggled more and more, it's just become really clear that she needs to be in special programs. And so I've only just really started looking actively, probably in the last maybe 12 months. And it was actually our physiotherapist who suggested this website where you guys were listed, and it was so good to find it because she walked in, she was comfortable, within a few minutes and participating straight away, and I could just see how happy she was. I could tell in the way that she was holding herself, she was really proud and so, so comfortable, because without that level of safety, you can't participate, you're too sort of distressed with all the other anxiety. So
yeah, well, a general Auskick has hundreds of kids and there's noises and outside area, so many things going on.
Too much chaos.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, and I remember one time I took her to basketball, and it was inside a basketball, like a school hall, and it was so loud. There was, 40 kids in there, and you can imagine 40 basketballs bouncing around.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't cope. And when I mentioned it to the psychologist, she was just like, she just shook her head. She was like, it's just you can't go there. That's not. And I'm still, now I feel like I understand more, but it's still understanding what sort of environments are really out of favour and what's going to work and what's not. It's taken me a long time.
Each child is so different.
Yes.
So it's the same for us as coaches and all the other coaches we've got. We've tried to diversify the coaches a lot. So we've got Shannon, who's from the blind team. So he's got lived experience. A couple of the others have a lot of different experiences working with children. So we're all learning every day that we do it. And every child that comes into the program is so different. So trying to tailor it, because we've got more coaches to children ratio than, say, an Auskick, we can really tailor it towards what children we have in the program.
Yeah, it's so good. I think that's, in some ways of course they're better off because they're comfortable, but they get a better experience because they get to develop a closer relationship with another person and build that, connection with someone else as well, which can be harder to do if there's one for 30 kids or whatever it is.
And for a lot of them, the trust is the biggest part, because there's some that wouldn't participate at all until they have that rapport and trust, and you can develop, like you said, really easily, or a lot easier with more coaches to start participants. So that's a big part of it, I think.
Yeah, it is. Millie's only been, I think, only once because she was unwell last week. But I just saw the kids coming in so happily, so comfortable. It looked like some of them had been coming for quite a long time as well.
Yeah, I think we've got a good core of maybe 12 to 15 loyal, regular participants. So once they've sort of developed that relationship, the parents find it really hard for them not to come. So, it's about building, like we've got a really strong base, and now just try and build and get more children aware and comfortable in the environment.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that. I want to get to the Saints in a minute because it sounds like it's really consistent with the broader cultural values of the Saints. But just before we do that, just if you can tell me a little bit more about what your goals are. So you said you've got some ambitions to grow, is that right?
Yeah, so I guess the short-term plan will be just to solidify the program we've got now and provide the best program for the participants that we've got in the program. I guess because I'm so new to the role, the Saints are really like investing in this area. So my position has sort of come about because of that. So I'm really here to like grow the program moving forward. So yeah, getting the awareness out there and continually growing the program is the main goal for me moving forward. And I think even bigger than that, broader goals that I probably have personally is to maybe transition to adults as well, because there's a growing need for that as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I'm hearing so much, this is more from a medical support perspective, of parents struggling because when their kids hit 18, they're not considered children anymore and they have to go and sort of engage with adult providers. And it did make me think, you don't hear as much about, or maybe it's also because I'm not looking at this stage, but there does seem to be quite a big focus and objective of focusing on kids. But I do wonder what does happen as people get older and maybe there's less opportunities for them to connect with community.
There definitely is. And we've had, I know even since I've started, I've had a few emails of parents who have older children. Well, they're not children anymore. They're becoming adults, and they're looking for programs to keep them involved and that sort of thing. So there definitely is the need. And I think developmentally and like for confidence and all that sort of thing, I think it's super important.
Yeah, and for community, you know. So, I mean, that's the thing that's so nice about all these things, is that they give you that. So it's our physio who suggested it, because obviously participating in that way really reinforces the work that she's been doing in physio for her coordination and gross motor and hand-eye, all that kind of thing. But also being a part of something, like having a group of people that you see every week, that you know, I mean, Millie was so proud of herself after she went that first time that she taped up her ankle and then hobbled into school. She was not injured, but she wanted to say, I did it at footy last night.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, because I could just straight away, she wanted to identify with it. She wanted people to know that she'd been doing footy. And even I think I mentioned to you, because one of the parents mentioned that there had at some point also been a second class in the week, Thursday. And Millie said to me, after Tuesday, the next day, can I go again on Thursday? And she ran around. Like, she had a red face. She was exhausted. That took effort for her. And in another parallel universe, she would have just said, I'm too tired. That was too hard. I don't want to. But she wanted to go again on Thursday. I just thought that was huge. It said so much about how well it suited her.
I think it's also creating a community for the parents as well. So the AusKit community for the parents is huge. So being able to have parents and families with similar challenges that everyone faces, being able to connect with them is really, really cool as well.
You're absolutely right. It's true. It's such an important thing. I mean, it's one of the reasons that I created this podcast, is in order to share those stories. So for other parents to be able to hear a similar story and relate to it, and also not to feel alone, to know that, there are other people, so many other people out there living the same kind of challenges, and being able to connect with each other, you know, hear each other's stories. I mean, I often say it's sometimes really hard to talk to parents with neurotypical kids, because you can't tell some of the things that you've been living because it's too shocking, or it's too far away from
their reality.
Yes, and you have to, and then it ends up being another thing you have to deal with, their surprise or shock, or
bit of judgment as well, potentially.
Plenty.
Yeah. I feel like if the children at the program, you know, one might be having a really bad day and needs to go to the sensory space, or is just running amok really, but you can't, like the parents understand and completely sort of see what's going on, and same as the coaches. So there's no anger and judgment and that sort of thing, which creates a more safe space as well.
It's huge, and I've said this quite a bit. It's the hardest thing. Well, not that I know, I'm sure there's plenty of hard things, but from my parenting perspective, it's absolutely the hardest thing that I've had to adjust to, but it's opened up a whole new world for me that otherwise I would not have been able to experience or even know was out there, and that is that love of that for the people, whether it's the parents or the kids or the people like you who are creating opportunities, that love and that tolerance and that, just that commitment and effort to give extra, it's beautiful. And, you can focus on the things that are hard a lot, but there's a lot of really beautiful things that come with this community, or, any kind of community, I suppose, that have a shared experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you mentioned the Saints are keen to invest more in this program. I did a little bit of research. Some listeners will know that, I'm sorry to say, we're not Saints fans in this home.
That's fine. That's another thing we should add about the program is it's not just a St Kilda for St Kilda fans, and that it's for everyone. So you don't have to go for the Saints, and you have to wear Saints uniform to go.
Well, it's funny, when we lived in Sydney, the local, I think it was an Auskick program, the kids had to learn to sing the Sydney song. And my husband was just kind of horrified because it's like early indoctrination, of the children. They become sort of a little bit, yeah. But I mean, now you're going to be one of our second favourite teams for sure. So there's absolutely that benefit. But I read that the tagline, or maybe it's their sort of core value, is "We rise together," or "Together we rise." Yeah, I love that. I'm all about "Together is better." That's one of my favourite kind of hashtags if I'm posting on anything. But I assume that that's throughout the club, that sense of "Together we rise." How much do you know about that? I know you're new to the club, but how much do you hear that and feel that in the...
Yeah, definitely. So "Together we rise." I think being a St Kilda person, we've won one premiership in I think 150 years we've been around. So we've been knocked down a lot, and the fans and the members and those sort of things are very loyal. When we do turn it around, it's not just the on-field success that we're craving, but like these sort of programs, we're rising by doing this sort of stuff as well. So rising on the field and off the field. So together is we do it, staff, players, the community as well. I think that's the we, like all of us outside of the club as well. And then, rising, just not on field but off field. So it's pretty powerful, very simple tagline, but something that we can all, if we work together and keep moving in the right direction, then success will come both on field and off field.
I love it. Do you know how long that's been their sort of ethos?
I don't know for sure, because I'm in the women's program and we've had it the last year, so I think maybe 2 years before that as well. Yeah, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, no, look, it doesn't matter. It's beautiful. If it makes you feel any better, I grew up in a Fitzroy home, so I feel you. I know. Yeah, and maybe that's why I'm less interested in football, because it seemed like such a sad thing.
Yeah, it's always a struggle.
My family now follow Brisbane, but
there's a tagline at the club. I can't remember exactly the words, but Alan Jeans, who coached the last flag, 1966, I think it was, he's said something, it's a quote, and he said something like, "To win a premiership is great, but to win a premiership for St Kilda would make you immortal." So it's just like,
it's like an extra drive.
It's kind of like a weight that sort of sits on players, staff, everyone's sort of shoulders you can't see it, but you can definitely feel it.
Yeah, well, in Fitzroy it's time to roar like 44.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously it was nice when Brisbane, when they had some wins in that time, it was good. But so the other thing I noticed when I was reading about the Saints was that there's quite a lot of programs in the sort of inclusion banner. It looks like there's an Indigenous focus, multiculturalism, a wheelchair and blind players, as well as a commitment to pride and reconciliation causes. So obviously there's a lot of love in the club and a passion to kind of really try and include all the different people who might otherwise find it hard to participate. How much do you hear about these other is there like an inclusion team that you guys all kind of come together and share your experiences?
Yeah, so I guess football clubs always get told, just stick to football. But I think AFL clubs have such a big reach, very strong brand. It'd be silly not to, sort of, if you can help people and educate, get awareness out there and help, like I said, like you'd be silly not to. So we have like our CEO, Matt Finnis, is huge in this space, very passionate about the community. So when you've got someone like that as your leader, you're going to be leaders in this space. And I think Saints are one of the leading clubs. Like you said, we've got the NGA scholarships through the multicultural and the Indigenous players, which is huge, and then the wheelchair and the blind team as well. Then the SaintsPlay that I do, and then we're pretty big in the Pride space and the Indigenous space. So, and I know through the AFLW we've been able to put a big footprint in those sort of areas as well. So I know we've got Auntie Katrina Amon, who's come into the club in the Indigenous space, and she has just been incredible.
What does she do?
She's the Indigenous Player Welfare Manager. I think that's her role. Not sure exactly the name, but she's through storytelling, she's been able to help the players, the staff, and just like create awareness and keep driving that, because we've got the Reconciliation Action Plan that we've got for the Indigenous side of things. But yeah, she's just been huge, like just creating awareness through her stories. And when you walk into the club, we're going on, it's called a Yawa, which is like our journey. So that's part of the Together We Rise. We're on a journey as a club, and she's driven that really, really well. I know one of the games we had 7 Indigenous players playing in one game, which was humongous.
I've got goosebumps.
Yeah, and we drafted an AFLW, Indigenous AFLW player, Janome Anderson, and that's just like huge. So it's just like you can't be what you can't see, and I think we're probably leading, that sort of space and the LGBTIQ space as well, and then plus the diversity and inclusion in like SaintsPlay and the wheelchair on the blind teams. So there's a lot going on. We have got the community team covers, all of it in different roles. But yeah, we all sort of work towards the same goals, and that's just getting as many people opening doors to football as possible. It's
so true, and it's true. I did actually interview the Hawks last season, and one of my sort of opening questions was that, you say it'd be silly not to, but it's actually a responsibility of the football clubs, isn't it? Because they do have so much influence, and obviously that can go the wrong way when the young players make mistakes, and that's bad role modelling. But it's true. Wouldn't be enough just to do football, because the fact that it's so ingrained in our culture, especially in Melbourne, it's a real responsibility, and it's wonderful that your CEO is really committed. I mean, you can't get these things off the ground unless you've got support from the top, because they have to prioritise it, they have to fund it. It's so really inspiring. You're in the AFLW team, and so you're you can't see Kate, listeners, but she's 6'1", like very impressive.
Thanks, Mum and Dad.
I know. Well, you're lucky, and you do look like a footy player. How long have you been playing football for?
I started in 2017, so I'm pretty late to footy, as a lot of the girls are. So I'm in my 30s now, so I started quite late.
But were you playing other?
Yeah, I was playing basketball and athletics before that.
Yeah. Late because it just wasn't really, like, where were you going to go with it?
It just wasn't, like, because I'm from Adelaide, it really wasn't an option when I was younger.
Did you wish it? Did you love it?
Yeah, I was obsessed. I used to kick the ball around the backyard pretending I was Kutafides and that sort of thing.
That's awesome.
It just wasn't an option. So there was no pathway. I always wanted to play professional sports, so I, went down the sports where I was able to do that, and then was really lucky that it sort of came on the back end of my sort of sporting career, I guess.
Oh, I guess it does sort of run out, doesn't it? It's one of those things that is quite ageist, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you look at like some of my teammates now, 18, have been playing since they were 5, and it's incredible now that when we started AFLW 2017, they were 12, 13-year-olds watching the TV looking up, and it's pretty scary to think that in 5-10 years the league will be full of kids that have played since they were 5, which it's amazing.
It is amazing. And it's interesting that you say that, because there's a little bit of grief, isn't there, about that you didn't get that opportunity. Like, I see that a little bit when I see programs like this coming, or new things coming about that. Look, I know, for example, Australia will get there at some point in education, but it'll be way too late for my child. Yeah. And so when you see that, you're thrilled, but you're also like, if only.
Yeah,
if only that I could have had
a bit of a missing out on it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I am really lucky in that I've been able to get 6, 7, 8 years out of playing, as opposed to, people older than me who never got an opportunity to play in an AFLW environment, or even just a local footy. There's so many more girls playing now that, 20, 30 years ago wouldn't have been playing. So I am grateful in that I have had an opportunity, but there is a little bit of that. If only I'd been kicking a ball properly since I was 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that you work for the Saints. Do a lot of players work as well?
There's a few, So we've got two arms to the community area. So there's the education side where there's a few players that have teaching backgrounds and those sort of things, so that they run education programs in schools. And then there's the diversity and inclusion side, which is where I work. So there's a few that sort of help out casually, because we've got a lot of the younger kids coming through who have a bit of time and with their uni and those sort of things. So there's a couple of us who work full time, and then a couple of the younger ones who sort of chip in when they have some time.
Yeah, awesome. It's great. I think I'm so thrilled for you as well that you got to get involved in that. So can you tell us like a bit more about the program, how it's structured, what its objectives are and that kind of thing?
Yep. So we run a program that aligns with the school term. So 10 weeks, once a week at the moment. We're hoping to grow that, but at the moment it's once a week. Tuesday nights, 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. at RACA Park Moorabbin, so on the basketball court. Yeah, so we run that 10 weeks for the term, and then we have school holiday programs in the school holidays. So it's pretty busy. There's lots of programs available.
Yeah, awesome. And because I loved all the drills, because it just looks like you watch any footy training, and then you're doing the drills, the same kind of drills, same kind of things. Do the kids ever get to play a game?
Yeah, so we try to keep it really adaptable, because on any day, any moment, things can change. So we sort of have a plan going into the night, but anything can happen. So we're really adaptable, and we try to keep it a balance between really inclusive and fun, and teaching skills and a little bit of football, like obviously as well. At the end of each session, we usually have some sort of team activity, whether it's a game or an obstacle course or something where both groups sort of come together and play a game sort of thing. In terms of an actual game, probably towards the end of the term, where we sort of celebrate the term, we'll probably look more to have an actual game.
Yeah.
It's just really hard because there's such a range in abilities. And
yes. And the numbers as well. I mean, it's not like a game you can play with 4 people.
Yeah, and some people don't like to be touched, or some people want it because it's football. They want to, get really competitive. And so it is a balance between that. But yeah, we do like to make things as fun as possible.
Yeah. And so in terms of how the adjustments that you've made, can you talk a little bit about what those, what's different? How do you make it friendly to this community?
Yeah, well, I guess the more coaches we've got, the better it is. So there might be a child who isn't listening or isn't sort of responding. So another coach will go off and spend one-on-one time with them, which sometimes the participants want one-on-one time. So there is the ability for that. In terms of the skills acquisition and those sort of things, there's a lot more one-on-one coaching for the participants. Instead of just go to the front of the line, go off you go, it's one by one, we'll coach and teach. And as you get to know the participants, you sort of gauge what help they want and what they need and that sort of thing. So it's just about, judging each child as they come and adapting. And
the coaches, you mentioned that they've come from sort of different, some of them have some lived experience. Can you tell us a bit about what sort of experiences they have, and also how you find the coaches? Are they volunteers, or how does that work?
Good question, because I'm only new to the role, but I know Shannon is the captain of our blind team, so he's sort of heavily involved in a lot of our community spaces. So he's amazing. And then I know we have our coaches are trained by Amaze, which is an autism
awesome
organisation. So we look to do that training quite regularly just to keep on top of things, and we get feedback from participants every term to make sure there's things in the program that we can do better and those sort of things. We have James Happy Hammond, who he was the sort of in my similar role. He's leaving us this week, which is really, really sad.
I think I saw him. Does he have a limb missing?
No, that's B. So we also have a program partnership with Homes Glen.
Okay.
And which is where B's come from.
Right.
So he's through that partnership. So
because the kids were asking about him.
Happy's,
cute.
he's amazing. He's got a sister who has a disability, so he's very, very, very good with the kids. He's got lived experience in his family.
Where's he going?
He's going to work with Disability Australia. Special Olympics, I think it's called.
Oh, it's sort of hard to be cross about that, isn't it?
So he's taking up a really cool role.
Amazing.
With them.
And look, I think the thing that must be really nice is that for all of you who work in that space, once you've built a love of an organisation, you go off somewhere else, but you carry that with you, and no doubt at some point the opportunity to come back and give back and bring your experience back in, I'm sure is there in some way or other.
And seeing there was one kid who has a relationship with Happy from Seaford, because he coached at Seaford, and he came, I think, the week when you came, and he just wouldn't participate in anything because Happy wasn't there, and that was his safe and comfortable person that and he just everything was just out of whack because Happy wasn't there.
Oh no!
So that on one hand it shows you the impact that having those relationships has, but then it's also hard because we want to make sure he can stay involved and that sort of thing. Regardless. So we just then got to build the relationships from the ground up again through someone else.
Yeah. The other thing that I love the idea of is that Millie, for example, I reckon she'd be an awesome coach when she's older.
Yep.
So like if you had kids who'd gone through the program who want to participate as a coach, that would be another great way to integrate.
And that's like long term, like if we have got to transition from, the junior to the senior, then that could be something that it potentially gets looked at.
Yeah.
All these possibilities sort of get opened up.
Yeah. And Millie went to a camp recently, which was amazing, called Flying Fox is the organisation. We actually interviewed the CEO recently, and it was the same thing. I thought, and I spoke to Dean about it afterwards, that she's the kind of kid who would love to be a buddy when she's older on a camp like that. And so, being able to have leadership opportunities in organisations that you've already participated in, it's such an exciting idea that you can look forward to.
Yeah, well, we all sort of have, aspirations to grow and to, move to higher things and achieve more, and they're no different.
Yeah.
Like they're exactly the same as us, and they just need the opportunity. And the vision, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking, like, I can imagine my husband would probably quite like to be a coach. Do you have like volunteer coaches?
We haven't at the moment, mainly because of we sort of have trained coaches and those sort of things.
Yeah,
but I think as the program grows, because at the moment we've got fit 12 to 15 and we've got enough coaches to cover that.
Yeah.
But I think as the program grows, we'll look to have a pool of
like sub-ins.
Because some weeks you can't do it, some weeks you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's so exciting. So I think I mentioned the way I found this program was through our physio, and she had shared with me a website called Access for All Abilities Play, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But through that, we found a number of different opportunities which we've been starting to engage in. And in addition to that, Jordan, who's my co-host, who was unable to join us today, I'm sure he's going to be quite disappointed. He runs a program called Hoop Now, where they do basketball, and it's similar program for the similar kids. And I did kind of wonder, like, do you guys ever engage with other organisations that offer something similar? Or
it's actually a really good question. We've thought about. Because since I've sort of started and I've found my feet, and now we're sort of looking forward to how we can grow. We have definitely started to talk about how we can tap onto different programs, even if it's a camp, whether we swap parts of the program and those sort of things. So
actually, I did mention that to Dean when I picked Millie up from camp recently. I thought that would be an awesome thing for you guys to go on one of their camps and do like an hour or two program on the camp.
Yeah.
Because that's such a great way to bring it out, out into the community.
Because we found once the children get into the program, it's really like the retention's pretty good.
Yes.
So it's just, getting kids comfortable and aware of it.
Yeah.
And parents as well, because you see a flyer and you might say, I don't really know what it's like. But when the children try it and have a go, then they love it. Makes it a lot easier for the families. So, just swapping those sort of ideas, throwing those sort of ideas around, seeing how we can, even if it's us going out to a school, running the program, for a 45-minute session, getting that awareness and the participation out there.
Yeah, there are actually plenty of ways. I think when we spoke also the other day, the fact that this came through our physio, I'm sure that there'd be plenty of physios who'd love to be able to extend their, that movement and those skills beyond a therapy session. Because, it's one of the things that I've found. I'm really, really grateful for the NDIS, and they've done so much for us in terms of supporting therapy. But one of the things I've spoken about with our local area person is that when you do therapy for once a week, it's actually, unless you can practice those skills ongoing during the week, it's very limited in terms of how much of an impact it can have. And so these types of opportunities are great ways to continue to build on that, And
I think physios, osteos, all the supports that the children get, if we can tap into those as well, I think.
Well, even speech pathologists, because that's about friendship and connection and being in part of a team and teamwork and following instructions and, all of that. There's so many parts to it that it just really brings together that more theoretical stuff to life.
Yeah, and I think the biggest benefit we've found is the the interaction and the confidence. That's probably what I've found in my short time here, the biggest benefit's been. Got kids who've come in really nervous and shy at the start, and then being able to, confidently run around and talk, and it's pretty big.
And going to school with it ankle strapped.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's huge.
And one of the other kids the other day said a prayer at their school and to thank God for SaintsPlay.
I'm going to cry now.
You hear more and more of these little comments that that's why we do what we do, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've landed in I'm so happy for the club that they've got you, because we didn't talk very much about your background, but you tell me a little bit about how you came to this role.
Yeah, so I used to be an accountant, which, I love numbers and those sort of things, but it wasn't fulfilling for me. So I plugged away for a couple of years doing that, and then decided wasn't for me. So I needed something that was more fulfilling. So helping other people was probably where my true passion lies, and people who don't have the chances and the opportunities that I've always had. I've been very privileged. So trying to open as many doors for other people that don't have the opportunities as possible is where my passion really lies. So I worked for a couple of years outside of the Saints for an organisation called Stylized Sports, just similar sort of programs, but varying sports, going into disability centres to run them. And then when this opportunity came up at the Saints, because I was already playing there, just aligned with all my values and my passion, so it was perfect.
Oh, it's so good. I love it when I come across people who are able to bring together all their passions into their work, because so often your passions end up something on the weekend, or, something that you feel like you never got to give enough to. And, I think stepping away from an accounting role, which I can understand on some ways might feel maybe a bit dry, but also that's a really good career. It can set you up in a certain way if you wanted to live in a certain way. And so to walk away from that and to tap into your deep passions and to really make that your life, it's so good.
I think having football really helped me with doing that, because I was busy with football and doing something that you really don't like when you have limited time when you're away from football. And I think doing something that I wasn't passionate about was really noticeable once I was heavily involved in football. So that opened my eyes. And I've had a few mentors at the club who've helped me be brave enough to make the decision to change and jump without knowing what you're going to sort of land in. So I'm pretty grateful.
It's awesome, but it's also another example of how it's not just kicking a footy. It's not just kicking a ball, is it? There's so much about finding yourself and believing in yourself, and I think it's wonderful.
I think the AFLW is quite different to the men's in that space. I think we are leaders in doing that sort of thing, because we've got so many other things going on other than football. So we've got jobs and passions, and that we are heavily involved in outside of footy, which actually I think helps when you come around to football.
The men's football used to be like that, didn't it? Before it was like you could earn enough money for it to be a job. You had to still have a job.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think I'm one of the older players, but I think we all want professionalism in AFLW, and it will come, but I think the slow and steady in terms of balancing and not jumping straight into full-time for the young kids will be beneficial in the long run.
But, women just tend to be multi-doers anyway, just because I think it's something about the way we see the world and the way we think and the way we do things. I reckon even when they're paid, you'll still be doing other stuff, because that's just how we are.
100%.
Yeah. Kate, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your commitment to this community and for your time and your work and your care. It's really, as a parent, and I can speak on behalf of all parents like me, that we're really, really grateful for people like you and for being a role model for our kids and for giving them opportunities that bring them joy and identity and all the things we talked about. So
thanks so much for having me and for allowing me to share the Saints story, and hopefully we can touch a few more children's lives.
I'm sure you will. Thanks again, Kate.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thanks.